I'm Josh, and welcome to Josh's Bookish Voyage. In today's video, I wanted to talk about books that mean a lot to me. I've been thinking about doing this video for a while and decided to do it today just because, honestly, I wasn't in the mood to do anything too difficult because I'm just having a slow weekend, honestly. This isn't about books that necessarily are profound or necessarily that I love the most because of the content. It has to do with the physical book themselves, something in my memory, in my life that has happened to me to make this book mean something special to me. And I want to start with the books that mean the most and then go down. This is really just a question of what books do I have sentimental value around. The first set of books I want to talk about are going to be all my Darren Shan books, basically. Darren Shan, this is the first book of the Cirque du Freak series. I've had this for so long, the cover is gone. At one point I there it is. At one point I just put this piece of paper on there thinking, oh, I'll replace it eventually. And then I think before I did, I went on my 18th birthday to Miami, Florida. I paid for my dad and myself to fly down there. I'm from Georgia, so it wasn't that expensive, but it was my first time flying, I think. And it was Saturday, October 25th, 7 p.m. I actually was able to keep this, and he signed it. But at the time, I had several of his Demonata series and several of his Cirque du Freak series. Book 1 of the Cirque du Freak series and book 1 of the Demonata series, about vampires, about demons, and magic. I read this first, as a lot of people did. I'm not sure if as many people read this series, but personally I like this more. Looking back, I'm not sure if it's as well developed, but I connected more to it because I really like the idea of demons and magicians and magic more so than I did vampires. The reason Darren Shan in these books, particularly this one piece of trash book, means so much to me is because it was the first book series that I ever really got into as a teenager. Like I used to read children's book like The Magic Tree House. But that kind of like really young work, I don't count, right? This was the first time I really got passionate and went out of my way to find books, and it was for this series. I have a vivid memory of me going to Barnes & Noble just so that I could sit there and read a book that I couldn't afford. And I got through half of book 2 of the Demonata series before I ended up leaving, and I did not buy that book, so kind of shitty of me, I think, but it is what it is. And the point is that like, I just obsessed over it. My memory is shit, yet these things I remember so vividly. In 9th grade, I had gym class. We had to be active and walk around the outside, whatever you call those things, the lappy thing. And I would just sit there reading it and walking. And then at one point, the coach person said, it's fine, you could just sit down and read. And I was like, thanks. This book is a distinctly different cover than this one. And that is because I got so obsessed that I paid for international shipping to get this sent to the US. And objectively speaking, these covers are way better, way darker. The point is that it was the first time I ever really obsessed. I have such vivid memories. One of them, of course, was going to Miami. So when I found out that he was going to be coming somewhere close to where I live, I wanted to go. When I turned 18, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to send myself and my dad because I didn't want to go by myself. And we went, and I get him to sign all of my books. I'm pretty sure I had like 20 books for him to sign. I didn't have a copy of the first one yet, so I had to have him sign it because I wanted book 1 signed, right? You don't not get it signed even though it's a piece of shit. And now this is like, I have a shrine to Darren Shan, an entire, what do you call this? Shelf, a bookshelf. That's what these are. These are bookshelves. And in the center of the Demonata series and the Cirque du Freak lies this book open so you can see the shit copy of what it is. Needless to say, this series means so much to me. This piece of shit. I can't speak to how much it means to me. My first time meeting an author. My only time meeting an author, really. And one that I care about so much, so much. Now next up, I want to talk about a book that honestly I enjoyed when I read it, but wasn't a book that really stood out to me that much. A copy of A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. I've only read this once. It is a story of a young girl growing up in Brooklyn, I think, and she goes through some very vivid and traumatizing things. I only remember one scene revolving a staircase. The rest I don't remember anything about. But this copy, which is old and stinks, and also just falling apart. I've never actually read this copy. The way I get this was that I went to the library near my high school, and I went to the librarian and I asked for a copy of A Tree Grows in Brooklyn because I wanted to check one out. And she found this and she thought, oh, actually this copy is so worn down, we'll probably get rid of it soon anyways, you can just keep it. And I don't know, maybe it shouldn't mean that much to me, but it did. Like, I still remember her. She only reads nonfiction books. And I remember that being mind-boggling to me. It's like, how can you only read nonfiction books? You're limiting yourself so much. and I don't know her name. I don't even know if she's still there. I just remember she gave me this book, and I was like, you gave me a library book. You just let me keep it. She said I could keep it, and it meant so much. It made me so happy. I really cherish this copy. I don't plan on reading it, but I mean, I definitely wanted to keep it forever and ever. Very appreciative to her. I mean, maybe it wasn't that big of a deal, but to me, it just seems so kind. So this next book, honestly, is more for the memory than anything, because nothing really unique about this edition or the stories itself. Although I guess I do technically consider book 2 of the Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice the all-time favorite, which I'm really considering reevaluating that book. But I got this book at Barnes & Noble, which is the first 3 of her Vampire Chronicles. If you've ever seen Interview with the Vampire with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, obviously if you haven't, you should. It is amazing. It gave me nightmares as a child, even though it's not a horror, not strictly scary, unless of course you're like 4 years old. This copy I got at Barnes & Noble when it first came out, probably. At the time, I was very religious, as was my father, and I remember saying to him how much I loved it because it was just so big, and it had this gold lining or whatever you call it, and I remember telling him it's like the Bible. It's like I have a Bible here, my Bible here. He got really mad. He was like, "No, you can't say that. That's sacrilegious." I just remember that reaction so vividly of him getting so upset that I said something that just, it's not that big of a deal. You need to calm down, okay? Now I recognize it's even better than the Bible. It's way better than the Bible. Even all the murdering they do, it's still not as bad as the murder they do in the Bible, right? And that's the T. This next book was a book I read recently, actually, which was I Never Been to Start a Murder Cult, Little Stories by Daryl Grizzle. The reason this book means a lot to me is that the author gave it to me. He was selling them at Dragon Con in Atlanta. I asked him if he took electronic copies. I didn't have cash. And he said he didn't. So I was like, oh, that sucks. He said that I could just have it. And I really appreciated that. When I think about it, I should have got him to sign it. It's the only book I've gotten directly from an author, and I really appreciate it. And you can see my vlog reading that and other books in the stay-at-home reading rush. A couple more before we finish this off. These aren't really that sentimental. It's more just a nice memory. I was with a friend visiting their friends in Ohio. They took me to this amazing bookshop, and while there I found so many amazing finds. Among them a couple pairs of amazing socks, which are really just absolutely gorgeous. They look amazing. One's a Harry Potter set that are super long. There's another one that says book nerd with a queer rainbow heart on it, and they look great. I don't normally buy books on my brand new from a bookshop because they're never going to be the cheapest. I came across this copy of The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin, a book that I actually didn't enjoy that much. I still want to own all the books I've read, and I saw this copy and I thought, oh my god, this copy is gorgeous. I'll start with the beautiful blue, and then just this embossed, or not embossed, this sort of engraved silver cover type thing. And on the side, of course, then on the back, it's a nice little symbol. Beautiful edition. I also got this autographed edition of Little Fires Everywhere by Celestine, but I was very happy. Most of the bookstores I go to, at least while in London, Ontario, they don't have new books, unless of course you go to Indigo. That to me isn't really a, like a regular bookstore. It's like a super big chain. It was nice going to like an official bookstore that was selling brand new books, because most of the bookstores here are all just used bookstores. So that was a really nice experience that I had just a really amazing time getting lost in this massive store. I will include a link, I think, if I can find it, to the store so you know what I'm talking about. It was like a German styled bookstore, which I just absolutely adored. So that experience was fantastic. My time there was overwhelming and very fun. Okay, here we go. There's another one. There's always more. This is a never-ending story. Sorry about that. Carl Sagan's Demon Haunted World, a book that I already owned on paperback. And then at one of my local bookstores here in London, Ontario, they used to have this basement where they'd have a bunch of books that weren't sorted yet. And all the books that were down there were $1. So I went down there browsing, and I came across this virtually perfect, with maybe a little bit of coffee stain, copy of The Demon Haunted World in hardback, this amazing edition hardback. This shit retails at like $26 USA and $35 Canadian. And while I'm sure I could have gotten it cheaper, to get it for $1 Canadian, you can't beat that. This is heaven on earth right here, okay? This was a sign from Carl Sagan that he is the Alpha and the Omega. Praise be to Carl. I'm very happy with that. Pretty sure we're actually towards the end now. But this last thing I want to talk about, which of course is my Harry Potter collection. I'm a little ashamed because, yes, I recognize that the more I invest in this collection, the more J.K. Rowling gets. So let me be clear, J.K. Rowling is a transphobic, problematic author who does harm to the LGBT community, specifically to trans people. She's a trans-exclusive feminist, and that is intolerable. At the same time, I love Harry Potter, and I like my shrine of Harry Potter, so I am a capitalist swine. And what we have here is my initial books that I got. Honestly, I don't remember from where. I know I owned them before I moved here. And then we have these, which are the illustrated editions, which I have yet to read, but I want to read. This is also illustrated edition of Fantastic Beasts. I do have one problem with these illustrated editions. I got this first one at Indigo in Ontario. I got it at basically full retail price, and the shit was expensive. Then I found it on Amazon, again, a capitalist one, for like a quarter of the price, and that was in the United States. So I got them in a slightly different edition. If you look closely at these point spines here, you'll notice J.K. Rowling's name and the year number is not here. It's just very slightly different. That sucks, but happy with that. And then another one I'm happy with here are my Ravenclaw edition of the Harry Potter series. I'm pretty sure book 5 is being released soon if it hasn't already released. These are basically unique editions that are being created for every house, where you can get your house with a unique cover, basically designed specifically to match your house, and every one is unique. Every cover is different, and also they alternate between blue and black. And if you get it hardback, it's slightly different. They are beautiful, and I am living for it. And since I'm here, I'm basically giving you a tour of my Harry Potter shelf. My Severus Snape wand is not the first wand I've owned. I've also owned the Elder wand, the Wand of Destiny, the Death Stick. Unfortunately, I lost it, and I also owned Voldemort's wand, and I still want to own the Elder wand again. I recognize this is a bit of a mess of a video, but you know what? I don't give a damn. I enjoy talking about these books, so hopefully you can enjoy this for at least the joy that I am radiating when talking about these books. Hopefully that's enough for you. If it's not, you're welcome to unsubscribe. I will cry, but it's not your responsibility. It's okay. But until next time, I do hope you stay safe regardless, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye. Surprise! I lied. I thought that was all the books. But if you're still here, congrats. You get the special in-credits scene of one more book that brings me joy. His name is Alexander Hamilton. On my 28th birthday, a friend of mine from school, one of my co-workers, the PhD student basically, bought me this book, which is basically the story of how Hamilton got made. Full of amazing pictures, the songs laid out, as well as actual text explaining how it all got made. The reason I forgot to include this on this list is because I haven't read it yet. So there's a good chance I'm going to try and get to it before the end of the year, because I feel bad that I haven't read it yet, but I am very appreciative of it. Because one, my friend and I both share an intense love for Hamilton, and two, this was a surprise. I did not know she was getting me this. I didn't even know this book existed before she got it for me. It's something really special. One, when someone gets you a gift, and then two, when that gift isn't expected, and then three, when it's a surprise book, and four, when it's a book you didn't know you wanted until you get it. I mean, what are the chances of that? Sure, we all get gifts occasionally, but usually it's a book we either don't want or a book we knew was coming, right? And if neither of those things, it's at least a book we knew existed usually, which is what makes this gift all the more special. I am so appreciative of it. Thank you. And that's it for real. Josh out.